All right. Good Saturday morning to everyone. Turn on some music here. I have another example to go through today. Today we're doing some more DAX templates. Today we're going to work on a selected date range. So we're going to go quickly through the example of how to use the DAX template first, and then we're going to come back around and learn how to build the template. All right, so here's my sample data model. I have a simple page here, and let's explain kind of what's going on with this measure. There are often times where we have a selected date range over here. So this is like a date slicer on the left-hand side. It'll let you pick a date range. And sometimes it's relevant to indicate to the users what range you're selecting. So if I adjust the slicer, you'll see my data updates and the window is paring down the data. This works really well when you have a slicer on the page. You can clearly see the date range that's being applied. However, if I move over here to another example page, there are also cases where you'll have the filters window on the right-hand side. And what you'll have over here is you'll actually have a date range filter. And I actually like using the date range filters on the filter pane because this goes published with the report, gives you a lot more options. And you have other things like, hey, I want to see data for the last 1 year. It has some advanced filtering options. So if I hit apply filter, you'll see my data has been filtered. But in this case, if the filter pane is not open, you really won't know what is the selected date range. You can hover over the visual and you have to hover this, but sometimes clients really want like a visual indication of what's going on here. So this enters our new DAX measure. So going to external tools, we're going to click on option number over here on the DAX generator. This is a tool that you can install through Business Ops made by Didier. So click on DAX generator here. This will then bring up the DAX generator tool. And so you can think of this as an advanced version of quick measures. So Power BI Desktop comes with quick measures. We now have the community contributing many more templates now. We're now up to 26 templates inside DAX Generator. This GitHub repo, I'll show you at the end, is where you can get all these templates. And I've rearranged it recently so that we have more bucketing. So we have buckets by totals, time, text values, mathematical operations, and then just regular filters. So what we're going to use today is we're going to do the selected time range option. And so we read over here, we go to the right-hand side now. These are our options. We can adjust the selected time range. We can change the name of the measure here. So here's the name of the measure is at the very top, and then we can select a table column combination from our data model. If we want additional helps, that is down here in the description and the instructions. So we're going to click on the table column parameter, and then we're going to click on our date table, and then we're going to select the column called date, the one right here. Clicking on date will then automatically write in the syntax here of this is going to be the dim date. I'll click the generate button. This will then create the DAX statement for us. So we can go up here and say, okay, this is the DAX statement that's predefined for us. It's automatically injected the two parameters, dim date, 2 different times into the measure, which is great. This is what we want. And all this looks okay. I'll hit create and update. And what this will do is it'll ask me to select where I want to put the measure. So now that I'm creating a measure, I need to tell it which table to put it in. So I'm going to go put it in the dim date table here in the middle. That's the one I'm going to click on. Clicking on dim date, it now gives me a nice little message at the top here. The measure has been added. You have created it in the dim date table. I can now close DAX generator. And now we have our selected date range. So it's a measure here on the model. You can see that it's made here with the little calculator symbol, meaning it's a measure. And we can click on it and see what it's written. So here's the syntax. So now what we need to do is add it to our page. So I'm going to click on the visual over here called card. Clicking the card visual will bring that on the page. And then let's resize this so it's not so crazy big. Like that. And then we're going to add our measure to that selected date range. And now we can see the date range is being selected here. So this is a very clear visual indicator. If I want to do the last, change my date range, last, let's go 5 months, apply my filter, it'll automatically adjust this. It'll show me my date range for me and automatically adjust it for my page. So this is an easy way to go grab a standard measure. I use this a lot in many different models. Sometimes I change the wording. Sometimes I change how, what the text will be. But this is a very easy option for you to go ahead and select this. And you can, go out and modify your own. You could add more parameters. So you could have, the text, allow you to have that as a parameter. So you could type in what text you wanted, how the measure would be built. So just a very easy way to do this. I do this a lot. So I just felt like it would be relevant to have this quick measure available to us. So then we could just kind of put this in wherever we wanted it to. We can go back here to our main page, the slicer page, with the slicer on it, and we can do the same thing here. So let's go grab another card, add that to our page, like so. I'm going to stretch this thing out so it kind of matches. And maybe pull it over here a little bit longer so we can see what's going on. Add the selected date range. We'll just bring that right over to our data model or to our visual. There we go, selected date range. And as I adjust this, it will automatically update the date range per what we're looking at. So there we go. We can erase that date range and it'll adjust it right for us, just like that. Now the neat part about this too is, so you'll see in here in this data model, the data that we have is only in monthly increments. So even though I'm selecting 8/14 in the middle of the month, it's actually picking the dates between that range because I have a date calendar that has the full date range, a continuous range of date values. And so that's why you're seeing the single date value is changing here slightly, but it's catching the data that we're looking at. And so this date range calculation will go to see where the values are, what is being selected on the page. So this is only going to present 8/1 through 10/1. Well, that's it. That's pretty much how to use the measure. Let's go over here to where you can go download this template. You can go download the template from GitHub. We can go click on that one. We can go show you where the template lives. Hopefully, if I can click on the link. There we go. So this is the DAX template. So this is the code library, PowerBI.tips/DAX templates is where you can go get them. All the ones that we've been working off of today is in the templates folder where all the templates are going to be placed. We please encourage you to go out, play with some of these quick measures, use the installation tool. If you want to go get the external tool that we showed here, DAX generator, you go get that by downloading Business Ops. So we'll click on that next. Here's where you'll go get Business Ops. And this is a external tool manager. So we are up to version 205. We have a number of tools in here that are going to help you make it easier for you to download this tool and use it inside your daily models. There's constantly updates coming, usually about once per month, getting all the latest tools that are out there. And then lastly, if you want to learn more about this, we actually have a whole YouTube channel out there that will, where'd my browser go? We'll try that again. There we go. So if you want to learn more about this, you can just click on this link here. And I'll put this up on the GitHub as well, so you can kind of learn from this as well. We have a whole library of episodes that we're going to be producing just around using this additionally. So there's a whole library of season 2 episodes around DAX quick measures. All right, with that, let's go build one. So in order to build this measure, let's go over to DAX.PowerBI.tips. So the domain here is DAX.PowerBI.tips. And then once we're here on the web page, this is how we would build this measure. So we'll just fill out these options here. Now what I like to do is I actually like to build the measure in my data model first. So I'll go back over here to the page filter area. I'm going to click on the measure, and I know I've already entered it in here, but I'm just going to show you, for example, how to make one. So this is what I do. I'll build the measure inside Power BI Desktop first, or some tabular editor or some kind of program. So let's make this a little bit larger so you can see what I'm going to do. I'm going to go grab this text right out of the data model, and I'm going to make it just as it appears inside my data model. So Control-C that. Then I'll minimize this. I'll go right over to DAX.PowerBI.tips. And again, you don't have to do this to use the templates. This is just the advanced mode. If you want to build your own, I recommend learning how to do this. It'll be very helpful. I'll go down here to the encoding section. So this is the encoding the DAX statement itself. I'll paste the DAX statement in, and then we don't need the name anymore because we actually have a separate property just for the name. So I'll cut that out, Control-X that, and I'll go put that up at the top here. Selected date range. Now, the interesting part here about this is we can make this a parameter if we wanted. Maybe we'll add some more parameters today just to kind of show you what we could do here with this. So in here, we have our full DAX statement. You can see over here on the right-hand side, we have a parameter number 1. We haven't filled it out yet, so it hasn't populated everything. But down below, you can see the expression, the full DAX statement down below. This is what we're going to be building. So now we'll go back up to the top here, and we'll say, let's just call this selected date range with, and we're going to add a little bit more here to this one, with input parameter for text. Parameter for text. So now we have, a little bit more description here. Now we want to describe what we're using this for. So this is how someone would look at your template and maybe consume this. And you just kind of just describe what this is doing. This is going to create a measure where you can select a date column, and the measure will write a text phrase about the range of dates selected by the user. Just something that's, kind of explaining what's going on here. Now we go into the parameters section. So this is parameter number 1. Now parameter number 1, I think, should be the date table and the date column. So it's kind of the table column combination. So parameter 1 here, and I'm actually going to name this, I'm going to call it date column, like this. And that way we kind of can, see it, and it makes more sense to the people who may be using this later on. So we're going to name it, and I'm going to, for lack of better terms here, I'm just going to say table name, and then we're going to do column like this, so we know this is a table column combination. And then we don't want a default value, don't need that. We're going to add a description to this parameter. Select from your date model, or from your data model, a date column for the measure, like that. Now we're going to enter this into the tool. So this is technically just going to be a string value because we're selecting the date column as a string number. So we just basically select string. This is what I'm using most often when I'm building these parameters. That's pretty much the most common thing I'm using now. And then I select the parameter selection. So I want the tool. So if I'm telling tools to go select something, right? So if I'm telling the tool to go grab something from the data model, this is how do I describe what you want the data model to select from. So I could pick a measure, I could pick a table column, just the table name or just the column name. So these are the primary options here in the beginning. So measure through column. These are basically selection pieces for the data model. And because we're going to go grab a table column name, as a very specific table column name, we're going to use this combination here of table column. All right, so now that we're done with the first parameter, we can go down to our DAX function here, and we can kind of start modifying it. So we can go to date column. We can copy that out here on the right-hand side. So the reason I made this little evaluated expression live here on the right-hand side is so that makes it very easy for you to just double-click and select something. So if you leave it in its default formatting, you can just double-click over here on the right-hand side, grab that expression, Control-C, and then now we can go replace it in our data model somewhere. So over here, we're going to go to the min date range, and that's where we want to replace our parameter. So Control-V there, that's 1. And then we have to replace it again over here in the dim date range. Replace it again. Now you'll notice here, when I replaced those values, the DAX expression updated. So we have the original, this is the name of whatever this parameter is going to be. And down in the DAX expression below, it kind of repopulated what these new two calculations will look like, which is very helpful for when you're kind of spot checking or you want to test your calculation again. You can do that here. All right, so now we need to add a description for this measure. This would be what would be in the date model. And I'll just say a text value that shows the selected date range. This would be something that would be when the measure is created, because we're creating this encoding will make a measure. This encoding would then have this value for you, and then when you program it into DAX generator, this is the description that would be added into your data model. That way you can have one description right at once, and then every single measure you make in every model has a description with it, which is great. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, we're not going to hide the measure. This is a text value, so I'm just going to make it, the formatting option will just be text. And we don't need any of these other options because these are not required for a text field. We need to add a tag to this, so let's tag it with text. The author will be Mike Carlo. And then if there are any instructions here, this is where I kind of describe how to use this measure. And this one's pretty basic. So we're going to say, let's go option 1, select a date column from your data model. And then you could add any support URLs. So you may want to add, for example, this one is using the function min and max. So we know that we can go find that, HTTPS. We can actually use dax.guide. So dax.guide/min. That'll go grab the minimum calculation, and you can go see that there. And actually, we can test this out. If you go grab that link, which I really love this. I mean, this is the best tool that I think is out there for documenting DAX statements. dax.guide/min, boom, here you are. You're on a page that describes min. This is the tool from SQL BI. Absolutely incredible. Very well written. Has all the really, really rich things in here about DAX. I love this tool. Use it all the time. So I'll do that there, and then I'll also grab it again. So we're going to copy that again one more time. Let's just call it max. And then for people to build their own DAX statement, I'll do HTTPS DAX.PowerBI.tips. So that'll be another link there. If you have any articles or blogs that you want to put alongside of this, you can add any number of support URLs. When you load this template into DAX Generator, all these support URLs will be clickable links to take you to the documentation about what this thing is. I think it's very helpful to help people explain like what you're doing, what your measure is going to be creating and doing. So let's go just a little bit further. This is already what I've built prior. Let's add another parameter. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at this selected dates. So maybe we want to allow users to modify what that first part is, you know, selected dates from, or whatever that initial parameter should be. So maybe we want to parameterize more things around this, and maybe we want to change the name of it. So for now, let's just make a parameter for the selected dates. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go selected dates from. I'm going to actually copy that text over. So copy that, Control C. And I'm going to actually do this. I'm going to take the dates from, and there's actually a space. If you can see at the very end here, there's a little space at the end. I'm not going to grab the space. I'm going to leave the space alone. So I'm not going to take that. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to click plus on the parameters, and we're going to build parameter 2, and this is going to be, we'll just call this text input. So text input. Okay, and so here will be the parameter name. So I'll just do text input like that. And then we want a default parameter value. So this time we're going to actually put in the selected dates from. So this is going to be the default value that will be automatically populated for you in the tool. And then the description for this parameter will be enter the text phrase that you want to use for this measure. Now it'll be of string type. Now this one's going to be different because this is going to be a user input. So we want the user to enter this. There's nothing about the data model that we need to go grab. This is purely a whatever you want to type in there, you can use it. So we're going to select user input as a string. And that now we have this new parameter. So now we've got to go grab the text input parameter. So we'll grab that, Control C that. And then we'll go down here to selected dates from, and I'll add it right there. So I'll have a text input that will just drop it right in there. And you'll see here, in the measure here, we have the text input value. So the parameter name is called text input. So now we can see that that has been replaced in the measure statement. So that looks good. And let's go one step forward. Let's just name, well, I guess the name of the measure can automatically be adjusted anyways by the Didier's tool. So I'm just going to leave it alone. That's probably good. So now that we're all done, we can hit download file. Now that we've downloaded this file, we'll have it on our desktop. So I'll move this out of the way. Let's go back over to Power BI desktop. Okay, so now that we're back in Power BI, let's go back to the external tools. We'll click on DAX Generator again. This will bring up DAX Generator. And now what I want to do is I'm going to go over here. I'm going to minimize my folders here because I don't want all these extra folders here. I want to grab this new file and just drag it right in here. You can see the icon changed, meaning it's going to grab this file and bring it in. As soon as I do that, the name of it has been added here, selected date range with input parameter for text. This is the one we created. So right here in the middle, we've got our new parameters already built out here at the top. We can change the name of the measure by changing the first option, or we can automatically change what the date column is and then what the selected date ranges look like. So let's go over here. We'll pick our date column again, dim date column. So we'll add that. And then here we can just modify this. So we're going to just say, let's change this. So instead of being selected dates from, let's just write date range. And I'll leave that right there. And then I'll hit generate. And we'll see. Oh, looks like that doesn't change there. Maybe I didn't put enough spaces in there. Generate. Might be a bug. But what it should do is it should adjust that middle text thing. So that's a text replacement here. So let's see if it generates this thing. Let's hit create and update. Actually, no, let's go back. Let's call it a different name here. Let's just go date selector. Okay, we'll generate that code. There we go. So date selector changed, but we didn't get our text to change, so maybe something's not right there. So we'll check that out later. We'll hit create or update. We'll put this back into our date table. Looks like it ran in there okay. Okay, so let's go back over to the model. Let's see what it wrote. So we'll go back into the date selector. Okay, so it looks like it took the date selector option, but it did not change the selected dates from because that was our default option. So I'll have to work with Didier on that one, why that's not changing. But if you need to modify it, you could go back in here. You could just change it. Selected range like that. And there you go. That's our new measure. So we can go copy this, Control C, Control V. We'll just drop this other selection range here, right like that. And then now we'll go here and we'll just switch this out for our new date selector. And there we go, selected range. Automatically placed in there. And that's our new value that we just added in there. So it's just easy as that. That's how you make templates. And I think that's it for this one. With that, we'll go back here to our GitHub page. If you want any of these links, feel free to take a screenshot or go download this from the GitHub library here. Go search GitHub PowerBI.tips /DAX templates. And this is where I'll put this video or the output from this video. And have a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys watching. And we'll see you next time for another DAX quick measure.